This
Recording.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I forgot to hit the record button. So now we're recording this. So we'll have that for, we can send that out via email or put it up on the website or whatever, so you guys can access it after this meeting is over. For right now, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Rebecca Moore, the camping coordinator. On the phone, we have Chris Ambrose. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much for coming.
He is the Tuscarora Scout Reservation Camp Director. We also have Ruth Kegel from Camp Barton. She's our camp director out there. Say hi, Ruth.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. And we also have Matthew Bull, our Scout Exec. He's going to say a few words. So I'm going to pass the mic over to him so that he can say what he needs to say and hopefully get the conversation started. Matthew, anytime you're ready.
Sure. Thank you, Rebecca, for putting this together. Ruth, Chris, thank you for being on the call. And all of our Scoutmasters with us today, thank you all for everything that you're doing to help keep scouting moving forward as we work from home. I'm just here for a few minutes. I wanted to come in and say hi to everybody. I know I've met quite a few of everybody, quite a few of you. I know some of you we still have maybe not had the opportunity to meet. But I just wanted to stop in and say, again, thank you for everything that you're doing for scouting, and to let you know that our camping committee is already meeting, determining scenarios and game plans for anything that the state or the government might throw our way when it comes to summer camp. We're putting together a timeline as to when we hope to make some concrete decisions as we move forward. But again, as everybody here, you know, we all kind of share in this together. The situation seems to change, if not daily, at least weekly. So it'll just be a situation of trying to keep everybody informed. You know, with that, guys, I'm sorry, I do have to jump off. My wife, we had a baby girl here on Tuesday. So I told her I'd just take a few minutes to come in and poke my head in and say hi at the very beginning. But you've got a great team here that'll help answer your questions to the best of our ability. And I look forward to seeing you all this summer. Thank you. Rebecca, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Matthew. Okay. Alrighty. So going forward, we're going to start with, for those of you who jumped in a little bit later, we do have, thank you, Matthew. Q&A at the end for all of your questions. A lot of them are going to be policy related, procedure related for COVID-19 and everything. So we're just going to start off, like I said, oh, I forgot the chat session. There is a chat function, so you can send questions through that way as well. Going to start off with, I think Chris, you could probably take the next.
Okay.
Talk about, you know, staffing things and reiterate anything that you want to talk about at camp for
Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone. Just a couple things before we move forward. I want everyone to know we do have a staffing change at the council level. Adam Kowalczyk, our council program director, has moved on to other things. So for the time being, it's myself, Ruth, and Rebecca leading the camping department, with Matthew Bull, our scout executive, overseeing everything. Both rangers are also heavily involved. I have our camp ranger for Tuscarora sitting here with us right now. We are moving forward. We are the team that will make camp happen. It's probably one of our more challenging years, but we will definitely make things happen. We want everyone to be as happy this summer and as safe as possible. Again, I can't reiterate enough what Rebecca said. We will do questions and answers at the end. We will talk about a outline for the coronavirus protocols, but again, those are changing on an hourly basis, you know, as from our health department and everybody else, and hopefully everyone, you know, understands that. But I look forward to speaking with all of you and seeing you this summer. So Rebecca, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Ruth, would you like to talk about Barton a little?
Okay, Camp Barton. As you guys know, I am the camp director at Camp Barton. This summer, I will also be the assistant camp director over at Tuscarora Camp Reservation. So you'll actually see both Chris and I at both camps this summer. which is pretty excited. I'm very excited to be heading over to Tuskegee to make that my second home as well. In terms of Camp Barton, a couple things that I wanted to sort of point out to you guys is we are not going to be holding that setup day on May 9th. We are at this point doing the June 20th setup day, and more details will come out about that as we finalize things. The other couple of things that I wanted to mention were that our Barton Bee Patch program this summer, it has been updated. We have 3 new segments going to happen. There's a Scoutmaster segment, a handicraft segment now, and what we're calling an adventure segment to add to our Barton Bee Patch program, which is pretty exciting. And some of the requirements for some of the other segments have changed just a little bit, so you will get an updated copy of that once you arrive to camp, kind of explaining some of the changes. You'll be able to see that at that point. The other change that I wanted to make sure that people were aware of is that we are not offering the boater safety course this summer as we have in the past. However, we do have a website that you can have your scouts and Scoutmasters visit, and this would be for the motorboating and the jet ski program. So the email address we'll put up in the chat spot at some point during this session. I think that's kind of all I had in terms of a few changes. Yeah, so I look forward to having everybody here this summer. You know, bottom line, safety is our top priority here at camp. This summer might look differently or will look differently than it has in the past, but we're going to be really determined to make this be a fun summer for all our scouts.
All right, thank you, Ruth. So as you can see up here on this, the agenda that we have up there, and you're all aware too, this is a constantly changing situation that we're dealing with, state level, national level, county level, city level, anything. So the CDC and the Department of Health is constantly making adjustments and changes to their own protocols. So we have to follow those when they come in. We could tell you something today, and tomorrow it would change. I've talked to quite a few of you over the last few weeks, and a lot of you have been extremely fantastic with understanding all those things. There's been a lot of questions. I've said I don't know a lot of times because I just quite frankly don't know. But I do want you to be aware that anytime we come across a change, anytime there's going to be something that affects camp, you will be notified. If you need, a lot of you have 1, 2, and 3 contacts on your online registration form. So all those people will get email updates as we go forward with anything that's going to change, anything that's going to be different. There are going to be changes to our check-in procedures that are going to be really strict. We don't know exactly what our policy is going to be, but we will keep everyone informed so that no one is surprised, no one is nervous, no one is anxious, no one is scared. It's to keep the kids safe, it's to keep our adults safe, keep our staff safe, keep everyone safe. That is always number one in scouting, and we will adhere to that. So right now, pass it over to Chris, talk a little bit about the leader packet folders, leaders guides, staff applications, and all those things that we have available online. Chris, go ahead and talk about those if you would, please.
Okay, online, if you go to the council website and go under, I believe it's under resources and then forms. Under forms is a section for camping. Both camp leaders guides are up online. The leaders guides are changing as often as we can get access to the servers, so they may have some not as up-to-date information right now. No one is at our council office to make the changes at this time. Black Pug is up and running. If you do need help with Black Pug, please let one of us know. Rebecca is our current resident expert on Black Pug, and we're learning a lot from her. And I think she's learning a lot every day. as far as other things on the website, we do have staff applications up. We still do need camp staff for this summer. Lifeguards are always needed, assistant cooks, dishwashers, and there's a few other positions we're still looking for. The staff applications online, as well as other security forms, and our health form. As long as I brought that up, I do want to touch on the health form. We are aware, as is national at all levels, is aware that our scouts and leaders may not get a Part C signed given the current state of things. The National Outdoor Program Office is aware of this. They are looking into it. They are working with the CDC and their health and safety teams. We do not have an answer on the Part C form yet. When we know it, you will know it. We will communicate that as best we can, but right now we do not have a concrete answer on Part C. If there's something as we move forward with things that you'd like us to try to get on the internet or up on the website, or that you've got a question about, please let us know. We do have the ability to email stuff out to you. Rebecca, is there anything else you wanted me to mention?
No.
And to everyone, I do appreciate this. It's a little awkward for us. We're used to doing this in a room where we can look at each other.
Yeah.
And we're very much not doing that right now.
The only thing that I would throw in there is that, with a lot of the I don't knows coming forward, we are working with national for guidance and directives and things like that. So nationally, we don't even have all the answers as a whole. So we just got to roll with it. We got to deal with what we have, and we will share with you. I can't state that enough. We will share with you what we know as soon as we know it, so that you are just as comfortable with the information, or at least in the know as much as we are, to alleviate some of the anxieties. I know a lot of parents are having anxiety over sending their kids to camp. There's a lot of unknown, and it makes people nervous. We're nervous too, to be honest with you, but we're working hard and planning to go forward with camp as usual to the best of our ability, make it just as safe and fun for the kids as it's always been. So bear with us, we'll bear with you, and we'll get through this all together. There are some questions. Ruth, is there anything actually you wanted to throw in here about any of this at the moment?
No, I think Chris covered a lot of it. Just to point out, I put in the chat the link to the boater safety course, as well as the link to the forms that we have mentioned here. The other form to think about is the over-the-counter medication form, because in the state of New York, we also need signatures on that. Again, we don't have the information from national on how we're going to handle that. We're working with the health department as well to figure out some things. There's also the dietary accommodation forms. So if your scout has an allergy or leaders have an allergy, please make sure that those are complete. And we do ask that they are returned to us by June 1st, if possible.
All right, so a lot of our stuff still is online. It might be a couple of updates behind, strictly because logistically I'm working from home, Ruth is working from home, Chris is working from home, and so is everyone else. So logistically trying to get everything to who it needs to go to get things online and things like that. So we're a little bit slower than if we were all sitting in the office updating all this stuff. So you will have the information, I can promise you that. It just might be a little bit sluggish, just bear with us, but I promise you we'll have that information available to you. I want to talk a little bit about camp payment dates. We have done quite a few extensions to the payments just based on the fact that units cannot meet. And then also, we're not in the office, so how am I going to get your mail? If you mail something in, I do not have a way to get it. Governor Cuomo has just extended their New York on pause or whatever it's called to May 15th. That's another month. So if you send a check in the mail right now, I don't know when I'm going to get it. It won't be until later in May. And if it gets pushed out another 2 weeks, that's even later. So I'm going to ask you to please do not send in any payments in the mail right now. There's no way for me to get it. You can, if you have another scout or two, or your crossovers come over or whatever, if you feel, you know, you want to make the $100 scout deposits or whatever, don't worry about that. They're not necessary at this moment. Your troop will have early bird if you've sent in the bulk payment already anyways. You're perfectly fine. I would ask that you hold on to all of your payments until the final payment is due in June. We pushed back the final payment to June 15th. We would ask that everything be paid in full by then. We're hoping that gives everyone enough time to communicate with their units, even though it's hard to meet right now. You can still get out communication in some way or shape or form, whatever. We're hoping that helps you guys with your organization and getting things to us. As always, you can always communicate with me if you have having any issues or any concerns. You can always email me and let me know what's going on. I do keep track of all that stuff so that we're not getting, just to try to keep the confusion down, just to try to keep everything organized for all of you as well as all of us. So please don't send in any partial payments, any deposits or anything like that right now. Just hang on to it, and once we figure out a better way to get the mail figured out, I don't know if we're gonna find one, but just be patient, hold on to it, send it in June. Also, if you need to send in paperwork, some of you might still need to do some form of a roster or a campsite reservation form. Just email it to me because I can print it here. I brought home 90% of my office, so I have all the files and everything here. So we will everything will be taken care of on my end. The one thing I didn't mention was the early bird. We pushed it back from March 1st to March 30th to April 15th. We just can't be strict on that right now, just because everything, that's when this whole thing exploded. So again, if you've got payments, please don't send them in. Just hang on to everything. We'll take payments in June to get everyone caught up and on the same page. But paperwork can be emailed to me. Just scan it in, send it right over, camp.secretary@scouting.org, and we'll get everything updated that way. On the same note, because the offices are closed, it's a little harder to get a hold of people who work in the office. You can call the office, put in my extension 113 and get a hold of me. It will forward it right through to my home phone. But the easiest way for communication right now is via email, simply because of the just logistics. It's just easier to communicate through email. So yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me. I want to touch real briefly on the council refund policy. Chris is going to go into a little bit more detail on these things, but I will tell you right straight up, we do not have one right now. It's something that we are working with National. The board has to make decisions. You know, there's a process for all these things. We can't just come right out and say, oh, we're going to do this. If you've been in scouting for any length of time, you understand there are committees and there are processes for making policy. We're hoping it's going to be at least, we're hoping for a, what's the word, like a rollover or a transfer to next year, or, you know, refunds, whatever. But those are in the works. So I do not have an answer for you about refund policy. But the people who are in higher positions than I are making those decisions. And as soon as I know something, again, I will share it forward with you guys. Chris, do you want to talk about the next thing with camp discipline, or do you have any more comments on the refund policy?
Now, just to reiterate, with the refund policy, we are aware of everyone's concerns. We do get the logistics, and I do see both sides of it. I am an assistant scoutmaster with my troop. We do get it. We just have to work through the process, and it's again, we're doing everything we can. We will let you know as soon as we know. As far as general camp discipline, most of you that have ever been to camp will know this. We try to have any issues with any scouts' misbehavior, we want the troops themselves to handle it. Our commissioner staff will work directly with the troops. If camp administration needs to get involved, or it becomes the situation where the scout is dangerous to themselves or others, we will act in the best interest of our scouts and to protect our programs and our camps. In the event, and it is a last resort, but in the event that we do need to send a scout home for discipline reasons or whatever, we will do that to protect our scouts in our camp, and there is no refund. This policy's been in place at both camps for the last several years. It's nothing new. It's just a reminder that, we do want our scouts to follow the Scout Oath and Law, as well as everyone else in camp. So, Rebecca, do you want me to go right into medication policies?
Yeah, go ahead and go forward for now. That's fine, yeah.
As far as the medication policies, this is primarily dealing with over-the-counter medications. In the event that your scout gets a headache or a belly ache or some other pain, we, under New York State Department of Health rules, cannot give your scout Tylenol, Advil, any of that. We have an EMT on staff. It's our health officers, an EMT, a highly experienced one at that. However, under New York State law, an EMT cannot diagnose a headache. Therefore, even if the doctor prescribes Tylenol as needed, we cannot do that. We can call the parents and request a one-time authorization, but we cannot give Tylenol or anything ingestible based on the Department of Health guidelines. And that's nothing new. It's new if you're coming from out of state, but it's not new to our camps when we have an EMT as our camp health officer. Shall I move into the coronavirus protocols?
Yeah, let's just go on forward. Go ahead.
Okay. So to everyone, this is a little bit long. We've been working with our health departments. You should be aware that we have two health departments, Seneca County for Camp Barton and Broome County for Tuscarora Scout Reservation. And they answer to the New York State Department of Health. I've also been working with our camp medical director, doctor who's tied to the ER at one of our local hospitals. He's actually very busy these days. I wonder why. That being said, we have a working framework that we are working with for the current protocols. It will change. It will change probably 20 times between now and the middle of May. I'm going to give you the outline. We're not putting this in print yet because it's going to change, but I'm going to give you the outline, and then we can, if there's questions, we can talk about it. These are all based on the CDC, the National Boy Scouts Outdoor Programs Office, our council medical director, as well as our health and safety standards and administration and operations standards for the National Camp Accreditation Program. So moving forward, we would anticipate the following. All staff will need to be temperature checked upon entrance to camp. At the same time, we would expect that we'll be checking our scouts, leaders, and all campers entering camp. We anticipate this will also include visitors to camp. We are ordering thermometers, forehead or ear thermometers. We're still working through the process. Right now, the benchmark is 100.5 degrees. Again, that is from the health department. That will probably change between now and then. At that point, we would deny entrance to them. I know that sounds harsh. This is the framework we're working within. We understand that this will dramatically change how we handle check-in procedures. As in, we will probably be doing temperature checks in the parking lot as scouts are exiting their vehicles. I know it's going to slow down things. It's for everybody's safety. When we have a concise plan and we're considerably closer, we will communicate that out. Dining hall and kitchen procedures. We will follow general New York State Children's Camp food service procedures as well as our own food services procedure standards. Specifically, kitchen food prep surfaces, equipment, dining hall tables and chairs will be sanitized regularly with disinfectant spray. Think of something like a 10% bleach solution or other approved disinfectant spray. Again, that will come from the health department and the CDC, exactly what that looks like. All utensils, plates, and silverware will run through our dishwashers. At Camp Barton, it's a chemical dishwasher. At Tuscarora, it's a high-temperature dishwasher, both of which are acceptable under New York State guidelines. Antibacterial liquid soap will be provided in all restrooms, and hand sanitizer will be out in all program areas and communal areas. Obviously, neither camp has hot water run to the campsite. We will still have liquid antibacterial soap as well as hand sanitizer. We are going to ask that you, as leaders, also bring liquid antibacterial soap and hand sanitizer with you. I cannot emphasize this enough. At least at Tuscarora, we dig many, many bottles of hand sanitizer and liquid soap out of our latrines when we pump them. The more that we can have in camp, the better and healthier we will all be. Again, it will be a requirement to enter our dining halls to use hand sanitizer on the way through the door. And as leaders, we're going to ask for you to help us with this. We only have about 50 staff, and there's a lot more eyes if we ask you to help us, and frankly, we need your help. We are still waiting for guidance and direction from the New York State Department of Health, the National Outdoor Programs Office, and the CDC on gatherings of more than 10 in an indoor setting. I realize that our dining halls are not fit to spread everybody out. Again, we're waiting. We do have some ideas in the backs of our heads. I'm not going to get into those because they're going to change as we move through things. We may end up moving from serving family style to serving cafeteria style, which again changes the atmosphere and setting of our dining halls. This will be communicated out as soon as we have direction. This is pretty much out of our hands. This will be what we're told to do. All program areas at both camps will be provided with appropriate disinfectant and sanitizing wipes, as well as the hand sanitizer, as directed by the local county health department. This may include things like a 10% bleach solution or other approved disinfectant, again, as guided by the health department. Sleeping quarters. These will be sanitized between weeks with appropriate disinfectants. Mattresses at both camps have plastic coverings that can be easily wiped down. The mattresses are all plastic coated. We ask that scouts and leaders will leave the tent flaps tied open. Again, I say this on April 16th when where I'm sitting, I've got 6 inches of snow looking back at me. Thank God we don't have any tents up yet. Moving forward, we can't predict exactly how that's going to look, but that's our game plan for the moment. Of course, staff doing this would be provided with appropriate personal protective equipment. As far as health checks and isolation procedures, both camps have areas for isolation in the event that a scout or leader exhibits symptoms of a communicable disease. Now, this has always been on paper and been our general policy and procedure. It's also never been all that widespread. There's been some instances over the years. We don't know how often we'll be checking temperatures of people in camp. There was a webinar that we were on the other day at the national level. Some thoughts are we'll be doing it once a week. Some thoughts we'll be doing it on a daily basis. I can't even get into the logistics of that. This is, we're going to do whatever we have to provide the safest environment possible, as well as open our camps. If a scout leader or staff member has a temperature greater than the benchmark of 100.5, they will be isolated and guidance will be obtained from the camp medical director and our local health department. I do not know what that looks like. I could speculate, as could all of you. It's not worth the time to try to speculate. And we will have, once we have guidelines, we will communicate them. For the safety of all those at camp, I would expect that we would be contacting parents to have their scout taken out of camp. Our health officer is compiling a list of personal protective equipment to handle isolation protocols, from minor issues to more extreme measures, things that I really don't want us to have to deal with. I would put in there that, as far as carpooling, and I know that's going to happen across the board for our scouts to get to both camps, to make sure the scouts are healthy, because if we have to, turn somebody away at the door, it's not what we want, but if that's what we're told we have to do, there's transportation issues. As well as the idea that, everyone's potentially been infected. I say this on April 18th, but things can and will change dramatically in the next 2 months. I would also communicate with your parents, hopefully nobody's been doing any traveling and everyone's managing to stay well apart from each other, especially in the time leading up to camp. This is, and I apologize for us not knowing more, but I think everybody understands we're in the same boat. Again, we will be working very closely with our health departments. We have great relationships with them, as well as guidance from our national office and our health and safety risk management committee. We do understand the fluid nature of the situation is frustrating for all. I jump right to the top with my level of frustration. You can ask my ranger or my brother. I think he's on this call as well. But please bear with us as we move through things. Rebecca, did I miss anything?
No, no, you did pretty good, but I did miss something earlier that I wanted to touch on real quick, about the refund policy, going back to that. We've pushed out that final payment to June 15th. There was a couple of reasons for that. One, it gives you guys a chance to play catch up a little bit, but two, if you're paying any attention to national deadlines or the way that the state is running anything, they're basically going with a 30 days out deadline. So they are either canceling or going forward with things 30 days out. So 30 days out from our first week of camp is going to be July 5th, but we might even know sooner than that because staff week is the previous week. So with June 15th being the ultimate deadline for all payments to be in, we will know whether camp is running or not prior, at least 10 days prior to that. Of course, that being said, we could also close camp June 15th and make it annoying for absolutely everyone. But that's the second reason why we kept, why we pushed that second deadline out so far. Just so that we can, if camp is still happening, you will know that camp is happening and payments are due. Or you will know that, before you send in a payment that camp has been canceled. So you won't have to worry about trying to figure out refunds and all that stuff. So that's to make it a little easier on everyone involved. I think, Ruth, unless you have anything you want to throw in right now, we could move on to Q&A unless you've got something right now.
No, I think both you and Chris have covered everything that I would have added.
Okay. All right. So if you guys would use the chat function, some of you are on the phone and I don't know how that works for you, but I know some of you have used the chat function already. Do you guys want me to unmute everyone and have you jump in questions, or would you like to just do the chat function?
I can tell you that when you unmute everyone in a meeting like this, sometimes it ends up very difficult because everyone's conversations that are also happening in their household and stuff could get picked up.
All right, so as Mr. Martinez has said, the answer will be no. Okay. All right, so let's just do it in the chat. And actually, we do have a question. Have merit badge signups started for Barton? Yes, they were opened April 3rd. When you go into the participant tab, so the spot where you went in to put your scout's name, it's now opened up to where you, underneath that, you can do the class schedule. So all you have to do is go in, pick the class schedule for each child. You do not have to do the checkout. All you have to do is pick the classes and they'll be registered. If there's an issue with the class being full or something along those lines, you'll get a message that states that it is. But if you don't get any of those messages, the kids are fine. And they'll sign up for whatever classes you want them to be signed up for. Okay, I hope that answers your question, John. If not, let me know.
Rebecca, I will tell you, I don't believe if they've called in, they have any way to do a chat function.
Yeah,
I called in and I can't. It's just like talking on the phone. So.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, if you have a question and you're on one of the phone calls and you've called in, if you have a question, please send an email to me. When I send out, we'll do some kind of an FAQ or something along those lines that we'll send out with this recording in case there's people who can't do the chat questions, whatever. If you ask a question, we'll get an answer and we'll put it out to everyone along with this video. Okay, so everyone can get all your questions answered, hopefully. It's unfortunate that we don't have more stuff to talk about regarding policies and everything. Chris gave us a whole bunch regarding cleaning, which is absolutely wonderful because that is paramount. Okay, a couple questions did pop up, so let's get through these. Question number 1. If an adult leader has to be removed from camp due to COVID protocols and it puts a troop below its minimum adults, what will happen? Will camp be able to have an adult staff stay with the troop to meet adequate adult leadership? Chris, do you have any information on that?
We will work through that on a case-by-case basis. In the past, I've had scout leaders have to leave in the middle of a week for emergencies, and the the troop does not have enough adult leadership. If they can't get another adult in camp, the commissioner staff works with either through an over 18 staff member, or we've moved troops to combine them or borrowed leaders from other places. We will do everything we can to keep a troop in camp if at all possible. But that in and of itself, coronavirus aside, that is nothing new to us. We have done that before.
Okay, alrighty. So nothing to be concerned about there, Mike. There is a process for that, so that's good. Next question is for, it's a distinguished unit question. John, I would much rather you email me about that one, because you've had a specific conversation with Joshua and I don't know what that conversation was. So I would rather you email me camp.secretary@scouting.org. Okay, and we'll deal with that. Thank you so much. One more question that came in. Will they require that we wear masks at camp? Now, keep in mind, if we are going to be under strict regulations like we are right now, chances are we're not going to have camp. So just keep that in mind. Sanitation is always something that we push at camp anyways, but if it's going to be to where we still have to wear masks, we still have to wear gloves, we still have to keep 6 feet apart, and we're under the same restrictions that we are right now, there's not going to be camp going on, because that's impossible. So that question we do not have an answer for, because that will dictate if we have, if camp goes on, that will dictate an answer to that question. So I don't have an answer for that for you. I'm sorry. Okay, here's another one. Is there any contingency planning for just doing day camp? I honestly don't know the answer to that one either. I don't think, Chris, anyone has actually come out and talked about doing just a day, because again, we have out of council troops that come in and they can't drive 4 hours every single day just to come in for, you know what I mean, working on their merit badges during the day. I honestly think if it is an idea that's been put out, if we can't do a full-blown summer camp, maybe there are things that we can do that are just day like that. It would cut some people out just based on distances, which is unfortunate. So hopefully we don't have to worry about that, and we can just hold our regular summer camp. But it is something we've been thinking about, Daniel, so thank you for that question. One more question. Howdy. Given the extra measures that are being taken place for getting into camp, what kind of lead time would you like for arrival so that you don't get piled on all at once? Perhaps giving troops specific times to arrive to mitigate that. Great idea. Chris or Ruth, do you want to talk about that?
As far as that goes, at least at Tuscarora, we've been doing assigned check-in times. If you're a pre-camp check-in on the Tuesday before, we can look at doing that. And as far as assigned times, and we'd work with the leaders to see, what's feasible for them. Some have a 20-minute drive, some have a 6 or 8 hour drive, or however long to get there. That's something we'll keep in the back of our minds. I would say we'll hold on that so we know the exact entrance procedures we're going to need to use. Ruth,
Right.
Do you want to add anything?
No, you basically said what I was thinking.
I think that is a good idea, Dan, anyways, just because I don't know that Barton has done that in the past. However, if we did do times like that, I think that would definitely be a good idea for helping with checkout. I think that's a great idea. So thank you for that idea. I don't see any more questions coming in. Oh, I lied. Okay. We're still working. I'm sorry. The question is, what are the current dates to put tents up at either camp? I know that we've had to change our setup and the Gopher Days and Beaver Days at the camps. I think the last conversation, Ruth, you said we are not doing the setup day, but we are doing Beaver Day, correct? And June 20th?
Correct. So at this point at Barton, the plan is that the tents will go up on Saturday, June 20th.
Okay. At Tuscarora, we are still looking to do two separate ones, aren't we, Chris?
That's what we're trying to figure out, the best possible date. With the New York State stuff going until May 15th, I don't have a better answer. We'll have a better answer for Rebecca on Monday after the Ranger and I have a conversation.
Yeah, at this moment, at this time, we are still doing the June 6th Gopher Day at Tuscarora, but that's the only one that we have concrete, just because, you know, they just changed the thing to make it.
I'm gonna put this out to everybody, and for the out of council troops, I recognize that this isn't feasible, but to everyone else, we are going to desperately need everyone's help to set up camp this year, more so than ever. I cannot stress that enough. We're going to need the help to make camp happen. We're going to need the volunteers to come out and support their camps, to help us get the tents up and the mattresses and bunks out. Across the board, the Rangers are the only ones, and they cannot do it by themselves. So anything you can do to help us once we have times, we would be very grateful for your assistance.
Another question that's popped up. Caller one just left. That was Chris. I hope he calls back in. Another question here, Ruth, and I know that you can answer this one. One of the problems I've had with doing the pre-check-ins in the past is I'm not always available to go on a Tuesday night. If we are required to do pre-check-in, could the process be made so that we don't have to physically come to camp in advance? I know we've done a mail-in early check-in before, correct?
We've done where troops have mailed in all their medical forms ahead of time. But again, with not knowing, like, I wouldn't want you to send them to council with not knowing whether or not, you know, when council is going to be able to receive mail. And just the idea of people's medical information coming through the mail makes me a little nervous. But that we have had troops send them that way to us ahead of time, directly to camp. So that's one less thing that they have to think about. Does that answer the question?
I think so. I have to find Chris again. Hang on.
Chris and I are still, you know, really kind of having lots of conversations about these kinds of things to figure that out, along with some of our staff.
Okay. Okay. Just as an FYI, one of the questions is not everyone is on Facebook. We are going to be putting these up on the calendars. They'll be on the Black Bug calendar. They will be on the Google calendar. They'll be on the website calendar. So that information will be put out, and we will also put it out in the link to our local council or our local units who get the link. So that information will get put out everywhere so that you will have those. So it's not just going to go out on Facebook, but it'll go out to everyone. Okay.
And just so people are aware, there are a couple of different Camp Barton Facebook pages. The one that we currently update through the council is the Camp Barton Facebook page that actually has the Camp Barton logo on it. So that's the one that has the most updated information surrounding camp.
Okay. There is another question. Will there be any exceptions made for kids that don't have all the completed medical forms this year? We did touch on that briefly at the beginning. You might have missed it, Michael, which is okay. We do not have an answer because we have to get that answer from National. They haven't figured that out yet. They don't know. One of the things they were throwing around is established scouts who have been coming to camp for a year or two, or who have been in a scout troop for a few years, who have consistently gotten a Part C done. Exceptions will be made for that. Right, what they're trying to figure out right now is, what do we do for the ones who are crossovers, who are brand new to a unit and have never had to do a Part C before? So we're still waiting for a directive and from National about how to handle that. So we do not have an answer for that yet, but as soon as we find out, because that is actually a really big question, So as soon as we have an answer for that, we will send that forward to all of you so that you do know how to proceed for that, okay? Okay. Another question. Okay. So here is a comment from one of the other Scoutmasters. In regards to this question, the one we just talked about, I've recommended to all my Scout families that they make a doctor's appointment now rather than hold off, since offices may be behind a few months on scheduling appointments right now. That is not a bad tip, but what I'm hearing from the health community is they're not even entertaining those right now. They have, they're not setting up, at least in who I've talked to in working at, UHS or Lord's, they're just not making those appointments because they're not important. They might make them a few months out, possibly, but making an appointment in August isn't really going to help us this summer. So we're just not sure if they're even going to be able to get done. So again, once we get some directive and some guidance from National, we will, and the Department of Health, we will forward that on to you just so that you know. Yeah. Another comment from another leader. Last I heard, it was just emergency related things, no elective related visits, right? So they're trying to keep their doors open for things that are a little more pressing, I suppose, than physicals. So, but again, we'll move forward with that and let you guys know as soon as we know something. I'm trying to get Chris back on here. The problem is I can't find him because now he's moved. He's a different number. Because I know that he wants to weigh in on some stuff. Any more questions about any of the things we've gone over today? Well, that's the last number. Sorry, my at-home IT guy is giving me tips here, so hang on one second. All right. Chris, can you say something?
Can you hear me?
There he is. There he is. Okay, I gotcha.
I feel like I'm on a Verizon commercial.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add to any of the stuff we've talked about in the last few minutes?
No, the only thing, again, reiterate what everyone else has been saying. We will communicate with you as soon as we have clear and definitive guidelines from our local health department, the CDC, National Outdoor Programs, and God himself. As far as merit badges, camp programs, etc., if there is something that your scout was really hoping to do, and it's not on a schedule, it's not on a list, email Ruth and I. I can't promise you anything, but we will definitely see what we can do. If we're going to do underwater rabbit raising, I'm not so sure that'll work. But if there's a badge that the scouts wanted to do, we can try to accommodate them, if it's all possible. But we can't do anything about it unless we know about it. The same deal when you're at camp this summer. If there's an issue, a problem, a concern, you don't like the color of the ranger's beard, or you didn't get enough garlic bread at night, let us know. We will do everything humanly possible to make you happy within reason if we can, but we can't change anything unless we know about it. So, and I do appreciate everyone's sacrifices for being here today and everything you do for our scouts as we deliver the promise of scouting.
In regards to the Part C and how to proceed with all those things, we just are going to have to wait for directive from National and the Department of Health. So suggestions are wonderful and great, but they're not, I don't know if they're going to be ones that we're going to be able to make. I think we have to defer. National will tell us what to do. So one question from Kathleen: if scouts want to wear masks even if they aren't required, will it be allowed? I guess we don't have an answer for that. Chris, I don't
I,
know.
I that's a new question. I would say that on a case by case basis, but they would need to, having worked in a school setting for many, many years, they would need to be a mask that's for that particular reason where we could see the eyes. I get real sketchy around masks in any setting for a lot of other security based reasons. But we would handle it on a case by case basis depending on where we're at.
Yeah, we'll try to get an answer for that, Kathleen, anyways, and put it into the, the question and answer thingies that we'll put out with this video. Okay, we might not have anything right now, but we'll try to incorporate it into policy at least when we put that out, so that everyone is aware if that's feasible or doable or not. Okay.
Rebecca, I do have one other thing to add.
Yep.
This is totally unrelated to the virus or anything else. Both camps, it's just a reminder that all visitors need to sign in to camp. Scouts and leaders will be banded appropriately. Staff wear ID badges. I cannot stress the security of both camps enough. The two camps do have very different approaches to security based on location. If you've been to Tuscarora, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been, it's kind of like entering a very restricted area. Camp Barton has got a public road running through it, but I can't stress enough for the safety of all of our scouts and leaders, we do require visitors to sign in and have approval of camp administration to be on the property.
Okay, so that actually, Dan just asked a question about any thoughts on encouraging or discouraging day visits and mail and all that stuff. So this kind of actually leads into that. At this moment, visitation is still welcome, but again, you will be subject to our check-in procedures. If we have to have temperatures taken, you're going to have your temperature taken. You have to go through the whole process too. I know we're trying to limit on and off, but Chris, you might have more on that.
You mean limit visitors?
Right.
I would say that it's the same thing that we've said before. Frequent visits from the outside, regardless of why or what or the circumstances, do tend to distract our scouts from the program. I would never say that a family can't visit. At Tuscarora, typically they come on Wednesdays or definitely on Friday evenings. Wednesday evening or Friday evenings. I'll let Ruth talk about which nights are best at Camp Barton. But again, we don't want to have the scouts continuously distracted. And whatever protocols we're following, all visitors will be subject to that for the safety of our scouts. I will say that mail, at least, I don't see a problem. If they want to mail, send mail. It's going to take a minimum of 3 days usually to get to Tuscarora anyways, and longer if it's large packages because they don't deliver them here. We have to get somebody to go down to the post office. So from that end, anything on that, any viruses will be long dead before it ever gets here. So, Ruth, I don't know what days you've typically had people come to camp as far as visitation.
Usually it is Tuesday night is the night that troops do troop campfires. So Tuesday nights. So there'll be a different process for checking in. Right now you check in at the office, you get a wristband. But like we're all saying, that definitely is something that will look different this year.
Okay, so basically there might be a little bit of a more tight regulation on visitation and stuff, but we're just going to have to wait for the Department of Health to give us an idea of what's the safest way to proceed with that for our scout safety. So we'll keep that in mind as when we're trying to get some answers and things like that. I'm sure they'll direct us. The Department of Health will direct us on how to handle that anyways. But like Chris said, do mail. Absolutely mail stuff to your kids if you want to. That's perfectly fine. Dan is also asking too, Chris, about staff. He said, I was thinking for the benefit of the staff and the odds of something happening to play it safe.
I see both sides of it. I would be hesitant. I'd be hesitant to tell families they can't come visit. At the same time, I do want to protect our staff. anyone that's known me for longer than 5 minutes know I can be kind of protective of all the staff at both camps. With that being said, if they come visit, I would just encourage, not necessarily stay away, but kind of keep their distance from not immediate family. Again, I see both sides of it, but I can't in good conscience tell parents they can't come visit their kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing we're just going to have to roll with, Dan, and just make the best judgment call once we get a little bit closer to concreting all of our policies and procedures and things. Any other questions from anyone? I do want to say that I do very much appreciate you guys taking the time on a Saturday to come in and listen to us go on and on about things we don't know necessarily. It's very much appreciated that you would take the time to at least make the effort to want to know what's going on and where we stand and where we are going forward. Your support is actually very fantastic to us. We really appreciate it. So I guess just at this point, if you guys have any questions, again, you can email them to me, camp.secretary@scouting.org. Chris and Ruth and I will sit down and get some Q&As out, or some FAQs together. We'll send it out with the recording, just so you guys have something to fall back on, or at least get some more conversations going. So if that is all for now, appreciate you guys. We're getting a lot of nice job and thanks, and you guys are awesome. Thanks, Andrea. So people are appreciating us too, so that's wonderful. So keep the communication open, go ahead and ask questions, and if we can answer it, we will. If we can't, we'll do the best that we can to get the information to you as soon as we have it. I will always be sending out emails from the online system to everyone every time we have some kind of major change, so that you guys are all updated and well informed. So if there isn't anything else, thank you guys for coming out again, and we will talk to you at some point. Thank you very much.